Hello coaches, welcome back to another Modern Soccer Coach interview. This week we are joined by Rick Wallace, head coach at Habersham Central High School. We talk about the role of tactics and high school soccer, something we've never talked about before. I love this chat. If you enjoy the interviews, if you enjoy this, please like, please subscribe. And if you're a high school coach, we've got a special offer coming up at the halfway point. It's on the link below. Massive offer to high school coaches on the Modern Soccer Coach website. Appreciate all the support. Here's Rick. Enjoy. Rick, thanks so much for joining me today on the Modern Soccer Coach podcast. Really excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's a great honor and a great, fantastic opportunity. Been listening to the podcast for many years.
What a topic. High school and just like we just spoke off air before we start, high school and tactics sometimes don't really go together, or sometimes it goes together in a negative connotation almost. But we want to challenge that today and really get into, how you maneuver around game models and analysis and teaching tactics and development in the high school space. So first question is I don't know if it's a good question or not, but why do you think that we still view high school with the fact that, well, not tactically as progressive as the club game? Why do you think it still doesn't get its credit there?
I think 100% is because, you don't have the players for as long as season. It's a much shorter season. And, we can't go hand pluck players and get 18 players of the same quality. You get what you get as far as the high school goes and where they live. And, so it does present a lot more challenges, but I think it's certainly one that, can be overcome. You just have to have the belief that it can be done and create the culture where you can teach tactics and, get the kids to start doing a better job of making decisions and understanding that they can play even at this level.
What have you come in your development? Have you come to almost accept as have you changed in any way of embracing some of those limitations and challenges with not being able to recruit, or do you still struggle with some of them, or how do you get or manage that?
Quite honestly, it's something I've embraced from the start. I mean, we're in Georgia where, American football will always reign king, and there's no sense in putting energies towards, complaining about it, the situation we're in. And, we view it as a challenge, and, it's a great opportunity for our kids to understand that, we may not have all the same resources that other programs had, or even soccer programs in different parts of the state, but it doesn't mean that we can't try to do all the things at a high level and create standards. And, we can do these things and give you guys the same opportunities that athletes and soccer players and other programs, and other sports are getting. There's no sense in complaining about that. We've been up in where we are in Habersham just because we are a one high school county. We end up in a relatively large classification, and that can be tough when you're playing against teams in other parts of the state that have, much more resources to work with, and where we are, isolated in our part of the state.
Okay, let's do 3 little challenges and see what your solutions are to those challenges. And these are just things that, again, I hear from talking to high school coaches and some of the things people deal with. The first one is obviously that the preseason is limited to, if I'm right, there's an off season where you can't actually physically be there. And then there's a preseason that is, if it's even defined as a preseason, it's fairly short, right? Right. Can you tell us what those? Well, first of all, can you clarify those two, like the off season and the preseason, and what they are and what time of limitations there are?
So the first thing for us is summer. We're in it right now, where we're allowed to work with our team, from the last day of school to the first day of school, minus a couple of off weeks that they say you're going to give, your athletes a rest, give them a break. So you can work with them as much as you want to during the summer. Once the school year starts, we can meet with them. We could have plenty of conditioning type workouts. As far as breaking out a ball, when the ball comes out, you can never have more than 4 athletes and me or another coach going on simultaneously up until the official start date, which for us falls in the middle of January. Those are the rules that we have to play within.
You can't have a full team practice before January. Is that what you're saying?
No, you can't. You can't have no more than 4 in a ball. which is a tough thing because it's a kind of in the state of Georgia, it's across the whole board. And, every sport only have four players and a coach. Yet, if you're a basketball coach, that can be 80% of your starting 11 or your starting lineup where, I'd love to have 80% of my starting 11, with us training at a time. But, unfortunately, those are the rules. So you get a ball and four players, and that's all you can have.
All right. Brilliant start. How on earth do you navigate around? How do you manage that then? Talk about August school starting through to January where you've got the full team. What do you do?
Yeah, so we'll have several. We have a lot of kids will be playing club for sure. So we don't want to do too much with them. But when we get to October, the guys they're starting to they're starting to feel let's play some high school soccer. And so we'll get together. We started in October. We'll do a quick just conditioning workouts with the boys because they want a little bit more, and we try to get that done inside of like 30 minutes. And then we'll also start 4-on-1 training, and we just set up a schedule. We usually do one in the morning, and I'll usually do two in the afternoon with two different groups. And we just try to get players grouped together where we anticipate them playing, and try to start getting them in the blocks and the units that we think they'll play with through the course of the season. And that way we can tweak those 4-on-1s to kind of be technical, functional training sessions, based on what we think they will need. And it's more to just like, let's sharpen the sword and let's try to get better at some things that we know that we're deficient at.
I'm reading a lot at the minute about trade-offs in coaching. I think it's so beneficial about doing anything has a positive and negative. But when I'm listening to that, or I'm trying to frame my mind in terms of making myself a bit more solution-based and thinking, okay, well, and everyone seems to be challenged today with independence and responsibility for a group of players. Is there a potential to actually elevate elements of responsibility, accountability, communication if you're basically setting up that and by the rules you can't really go in and coach? Do the players get a bit more time to lead it themselves, or does that help, or is it a hindrance completely?
You'd love to be in. It's tough still for high schoolers to really embrace the leadership piece and that responsibility. It's always going to be a tough thing, especially with boys, because you get the macho, who thinks they're the top dog, and versus being true leaders. If I had my way, I'd rather be able to just fully get them in there and let's go, but we don't. So we at Habersham, we spend time. We bring boys in every Wednesday morning for we do leadership breakfast. I do a leadership lunch with the core so that we can start working on leadership elements. And because we can't play, of course, the boys want to be able to play. We'll have kind of free field time where, we're there in case something happens, but the guys lead all of that, and that's a great opportunity for them to start to take on some responsibility. And they early on, I have to guide them a little bit more, but as we near January, you really see them start to reach out and make plans that, hey, they're going to do it beyond what I've even asked of them. Can we go to this tennis court and start playing some soccer tennis, or can we go to the tennis court and start playing some futsal there, and can we do a little bit more, And it's all about the group of kids you have and how invested they are in what we're doing. And if we can, get their leadership skills developing and getting them to believe and have confidence in who they are as leaders, then, that transforms that aspect of it as well.
Leadership, what a great topic. What does a leadership breakfast look like?
We don't get much time with them, and it's tough to get them in, but, we'll get them a little biscuit, and we come in and we just talk about different aspects of, what it means to be a leader, or, character traits that are going to be important for us to be successful. So hopefully we're attacking some of the things that we've seen arise through the years. We're ahead of time. And it's great when other sports are going on, or, and they can see, how top level professionals or top level college athletes are handling themselves in these situations, and listening to press conferences with them, and, hey, how did they handle this? And how, they're just like you guys are, and, and they're starting to learn to see how top people are doing it, and we're just trying to let them see scenarios and put them in a better position to handle those when we know they present themselves within the course of the season.
All right, next challenge is, different. You mentioned at the start, you can't really recruit, so you're going to get different player levels, also at an age where, just actually listening to Charles Barkley this morning, and he was 5'7" sophomore year, and 6'7" his senior year. So there's obviously a great. I never really thought of that before. There's a lot of physical development in those years as well. That so not only probably the 16 or 15-year-old or the senior, there's a big difference in physicality and maybe levels, but there's also then that transition and going from that is going to have its own challenges. So how do you deal with a lot of variation of levels, so to speak, on your squad?
For us, it's about making sure we know who our core players are going to be. We know the ones that are playing club at a high level or have gotten a good bit of varsity experience over the last couple of seasons. Even maybe when they were the little kid, and physically they weren't quite up for it, but technically and tactically they were pretty sharp. And now they're going to come into different roles, knowing who those guys are. And saying, all right, we know we're going to rely on these guys, and these are the guys that aren't going to come off the field, and we're going to base how we're going to try to play this year around them. And then understanding who we think the role players are and what do they do well, and then start to say, how are we going to be able to play this year and maximize both the role player and our core, our backbone, and put them in positions where they're going to be successful that can ultimately lead to team successes. And it's tough, because I'll start the day after we get knocked out and the season ends, and I'll put in my starting 11, and it starts to change, and this kid will move from here, or he gets picked up by an MLS next club, and the next thing he tells you he may not be able to play the next high school season, and these are things you deal with, but you got to understand like what we have and who the core is, who the next level, the next tier of guys, and what do they do well, and what are their, how do we put them in the positions to be successful, both individually and then for the team.
Talk about that then real quick. The MLS next, the knock on the door, and hey, coach, can I talk to you? And I'm sure if it's that level, then they're probably one of your better players. How do you respond to that there? The disappointment of losing a player for obviously going in a different direction with the team.
Yeah, it's a tough one because we know the model that we're in the United States, as far as club goes, that, pay per play, and it's a business. And, I try to, the boys know what, a player of that level knows what our training environment's like and what we're trying to do in terms of Habersham Central Soccer. And, we're trying to prepare those guys to play at whatever the next level is for them. So, we're not just trying to win games. We are trying to develop them. So it's tough when, they are enthralled at the idea of being at the next level, and somebody's told them you're going to go pro and you're going to do this. And, I just try to let them know that the door's always open here, and, we're going to work to develop you here. But if you make that decision, I'll it's not personal. I get it. But the reality is, unless they're playing for one of the clubs that's fully funded, like an MLS club, their academy's funded, the club's still looking out for the club and their bottom line. And quite personally, honestly, I think it takes away from a fantastic experience, which is high school soccer, where they get to play in front of their community and their peers, and and supported a lot differently than they are at the club level. I've coached kids that were top level EC or D8 players at the time who, we played in the Final Four in front of 2,500 people in front of our stadium, and then 2 days later they were playing the U.S. national team at their level and 80 people on the sideline. And so it's a tough thing that, but you support them and wish them the best and let them know that we're always here to continue to support. But it certainly can hurt your program, especially in a place where we are, where we're not loaded with 18 ECNL, DA, MLS next level players running through the doors here.
Hello coaches, we take a quick break here as a special thank you to all the high school coaches who support our work and are preparing for the new season. We've got a special offer, limited time only. We can't keep this open for long. Special offer for high school coaches. 6 ebooks, presentations, and 4 webinars. We've got the attacking sessions. We've got small-sided possession games, passing exercises, warm-ups, high-intensity pressing, positional work, and 4-3-3 patterns, plus the webinars, building your game model, building a possession-based system with Todd Bean, managing yourself as a head coach with Cody Royal, managing your team leaders and culture with Donna Fisher, available now. Perfect resource if you're planning your preseason, if you're planning your season, if you're getting excited, you're looking for some ideas. Special offer, limited time only. Please head over to the Modern Soccer Coach website. I will put it on the link below as well, modernsoccercoach.com/shop. Thank you for your support. Best of luck for the upcoming season. Back to Rick.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I do agree. Like I think that it takes away a little bit, not to get into the dynamics of the whole landscape, but you have the crowd that you talk about, and I've seen quite a few high school games where there's also a little bit of an atmosphere in the environment. The physical environment's different, and actually one of my next questions about pitches. Like the pitches so you're sometimes playing on a pitch that's not, manicured, and the balls aren't in a nice pyramid, and I do think that there's a part of development, as much as we like to think that development can be quite clinical in how it's presented. There are a lot of top class players that have come through, different types of environments, town pitches, Sunday league pitches, getting people, variations on surfaces and environment. I just think it's a shame, because it can add something, to that there, where I remember when I was growing up, if you could do it on a Tuesday night, when in Stoke, that analogy, that's a big thing in the UK. But I wonder if we moved away from that in the US.
I think we probably have moved away from it a little bit. I mean, even our boys in training, if we have to go to the practice field, it's still grass. The training session quality goes down, the energy goes down. They just don't like being spoiled by the turf that we have in the stadium. And I think we only played one game this year on grass. So, I think, that it doesn't really change. The surface doesn't change too much how we're trying to play, because so many places have it now, especially where we are in relation to Atlanta and top schools and such. But I think one of the things that makes development tough is you don't know which schools would have a little time. They may have a nice turf field and they put their soccer lines right on the American football line, so you're playing on a field that's 55 yards wide. And if you're trying to build and play, that makes things much more difficult than if we were on a 70-yard wide one. It's certainly part of the culture in the last 5 years, as people have tried to make programs and model their programs after professional programs. And and I just got back from England and got to see the Etihad at Man City, and they, just talking about like how tough it is to continue to, with those kids coming through those programs, how to keep them driven and hungry when they're getting everything at 14 and 15 years old. And you see that stuff certainly happening in the high school level, not just with the soccer ball, but the type of socks they're wearing, or can I play in a certain pair of cleats or not,
You would always see it in the FA Cup, where a team was drawn early in the rounds and they had to go to a small stadium. I remember Guardiola. There's a great interview with Guardiola, and he kind of snaps at one of the reporters. He's like, "Do you think I flew in first class planes when I was 14 years of age? I've done this." But there's also part of me that think, yeah, but people would think that you did fly in first class planes because of the ultra professional generation we have.
Right.
And that's got to be hard for where you are budgeted for. God forbid you can't afford the top end Nike balls or anything there. Do you ever find that there's a keeping up with Joneses for equipment today and facilities?
100%. You have to, and we try to take care of our kids here too. But quite honestly, we know what we can make happen based on our budget, and we know we're competing against schools with much greater resources, and they have different expectations because of that piece. And it can be a tough sell at times, because of course you look across the field and they're wearing this or that, and and there's definitely a divide. And when in the high school level, they don't sort teams based on resources. They sort them purely on the basis of numbers. And you can be in a rural area like we are, and the financial resources are not the same as they would be closer to Atlanta. But again, goes back to what we were talking about earlier about complaining. It is what it is, and we go to work with what we have, and we try to instill that in our kids. Same idea.
Love it. Let's talk about the game model. First of all, describe, tactically how you like to set your teams up. Just generally, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's no set formation for what I've been doing for the last almost 20 years here. It's purely look at what do we have available with us? How do we get the best 11 guys on the field? How do we put them in positions to be successful? We've never, in my time here, had a team where we're going to out athleticize people and bully them and be more physical than them. And, so we've got to instill things just like working hard, playing with heart. But then in the same part of that, can we technically be better than them? And can we know our roles and know our jobs and do a better job of making decisions all over the field, so that when the game comes, those things are happening, second nature for them. So what we're trying to, in the attack, we're trying to build. We're going to try to play through the midfield. We're going to try to overload the midfield and get guys in positions where they can get on the ball. Our key guys to get on the ball. And then we're going to, we know that the high school game, they like to play direct, and they're going to protect the goal, and let's try to get centrally in the final third with the ball at our feet and look to combine and play there. And then transitionally, we're going to work. We're going to try to win it back. We teach pressing cues, from day one, and we try to win the ball back as quick as we can. Recognize that if we can't, let's get into our defensive shape, and and defensively, we're going to be very, very sound, and we're going to work hard. We do know that with the short amount of time that we have, we can get the boys organized, the team organized defensively. So we will make sure we address that early, but then we'll spend a good bit of what I still call preseason before we get into our region games. That's going to be 6 weeks, 7 weeks. We will spend a good amount of time working on our attacking play because it takes so long to try to get the kids to play the way we want them to play. And defensively, we're going to get numbers around the ball and be very tough to break down through the center. And when we do win it, can we play forward? And be brave on the ball. And that's what we're going to be about. And we spend time even in the preseason, even in those 4-on-1, starting to try to teach those tactics. And in my mind, the tactics is not just where we're putting them on the field, but it's making the right decisions, recognizing, hey, we're in a 2-on-1, and right now I need you're in a position where we want you to take them on 1-on-1 versus, hey, right now is the moment to try to find that extra guy and make the pass, and trying to teach it in small groups so that when we can finally get the whole team together, the basic principles are in place. And for us, that starts even in our middle school and JV level. So, trying to teach those basic fundamental pieces.
Yeah, very interesting. You've referenced hard work and tough a few times there, and I wonder how much is that style? It seems to be, pressing, getting players around the ball in transition if it turns over, those kind of tactical qualities. How much do those complement the personality traits of work ethic and showing up every day and giving it 100%? How much are those two together?
I mean, I think they just go hand in hand. We have to be a blue collar type of team, and program where we are. Again, that goes back to the resource pieces and and the kids that we have coming through. We just instill that piece in them, and they take pride in knowing that they have to work, and and then when they see the results of that hard work, it just feeds that fire for them. But certainly it goes into the nature of who we are, where we are, and what we got to be about, because we're not going to have all the other things at our disposal, whether it's more top players or, financial resources or even support, off the field.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I think we don't talk about this enough as coaches, where, like for you, I can tell that it's pretty normal. Like you've aligned personality, character profiles to your style of play, which would make it, I would guess, makes it a lot easier to understand from a player standpoint of what the expectations are. But I wonder why we look at it the other way, to say, like, that's our year, day one, we start with those personality traits, character, hard work, embracing the tough and all that good stuff. But then you're asking people to to maybe go when they can and stand off and maybe be a little bit more strategic? I mean, you're laughing there because like.
We ran into that one. That was big this year for us, because there were times where, we also have developed a reputation, for how we're going to try to play. And we know if we try to just go, that people are going to try to be even more direct on us, and use their physicality on us. And so you're trying to, we have kids that's who they are, they want to go, they want to be in the battle, they want to scrap and get in and mix it up. But hey, we need you right now to not go on that guy and allow him to play the first ball into this zone. And when he plays this zone, now we're putting us in a better position to win the ball and bait them into believing that they can play against us. And as soon as they try to play on us, now we can pick it up and, be in better positions to start attacking. But it certainly goes against some of the nature. And, and even, it's all, club level goes back to there's a million different levels of club too. And we get kids that are playing club, but not all are playing at the highest level. And, they may not be getting a whole lot of tactical training even at their club level. And so all they've known is go get the ball and get on the ball and do good things with it, and instead of understanding that collectively, if we can stick to the tactics we've put in place, that we're going to be in a much better position to dictate the flow of that game.
Oh, brings us along nicely. So now you're kind of moving from game model now to like adaptability and decision making and understanding cues and where to go. But the point you just said there is like, okay, well, sometimes as a high school coach, you're working with a player who is in the rotation who doesn't have the tactical teaching or the tactical experience from the club background. Sometimes where you're leading to as a coach naturally is to overload that player with information or to try and make that up in a short period of time. So one of my questions that I had for you was, how do you balance that with it's a pretty noisy space at the best of times, high school players' lives, what's going on personally, plus managing everything. Like how does the information overload, I guess, how do you go work around that there for maybe a player that's got a deficiency in it?
Yeah, I think one of the things is just, that helps me just as a coach is the fact that I spend so many hours in the classroom, working with high school students, and you see what their attention spans are like right now. And you don't get a lot of time with them because they are distracted in a myriad of different ways. And, so we start early with this, this year when we looked at our personnel, it was like, where do we get these guys on the field? And I watch soccer all the time, and I happened to watch Clemson men's soccer team, and I really liked what they were doing this year with the personnel they had. And then that led me to Bayer Leverkusen, and I was like, oh man, I really like what they're doing. And they seem to play a way that's going to play really well into the personnel that we have. So, we would create some little, you can find all sorts of little highlight videos all over YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, and put it out there. And we would send guys the little 1 minute clips and try to get them to watch in 1 minute what Leverkusen's doing. We're not going to, they're never going to sit down and watch a full match in today's age, but if you can give it to them in a minute or two and let them see how the pros are doing, it helps, We get into early on when we're working just on us and, what we want to be about. We don't sit down and film and try to watch a whole game or a whole half a game. We'll spend time and break down that film into like a playlist to show, this is where we did these things really well. And we'll try to hit 10 key moments for them just to see that piece and handle that piece a little bit, and try to give it to them during the school day or give it to them at night once they're done. And, they're sitting at home with that phone in their hand and get a little bit of it there, and then before we go out to practice not afraid to use the tactic board and put it there and let them, see how things are going to move and where, what it looks like from that bird's eye view of a tactic board before we get on the field and they can't really see, what we're seeing. So, but I think it's about, recognizing and putting it in little doses, manageable doses that they're used to consuming anyway, and hitting them with the different direction of it, whether it's what we do, what the pros or the college guys are doing, and then show them even just the magnetic board and moving pieces around a little bit.
Yeah, on the video side, Ratty obviously spoke really highly of the work you were doing there and trying to leverage some of the students working that there. Talk a little bit about kind of like supporting the work on the pitch with, even if it is that tactics board, if it's meetings, if it's a little bit of video, how do you How do you manage all that, and how do you start all that?
I mean, that's probably one of the toughest areas that we have to do. Again, because of our teaching duties that we have, I don't have all morning, to break down film, but we do try to go through it, and get it into playlist where they can see, a set number of moments where it's something that we've been working on in training this week. If we were working on, allowing them to play the first ball out into the flank defensively, and then us starting to press off of that, we would go pull those few moments and show those moments. The biggest thing that kids want to do is, they get it. They want to see their fancy footwork where they skin somebody or this great shot they had. But, early on, we started with just playlists and trying to show the things that are going to be important to our style of play and the things that are going to make us successful in terms of tactical and the tactical side of the game. Because, it's just something they don't hear enough of, but give it to them in little bits. And then what we found as the season went on, I would hear some of them talking about, in the locker room, they would be talking about, did you see this at this moment? And it wasn't this great shot or this great move they used to beat somebody. They were talking about how collectively, one checked in and one was running in behind, and we were making the right decision based on where the defenders were. Great moments to see that. That's where you're making an impact, and the kids are retaining it and starting to. That goes back to the accountability piece that we talked about earlier. There's getting some leadership and responsibility within that aspect of the game. And for me, that shows me that we can do it. Even in this short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really interesting space. Is like this area of engagement and trying to get people's attention or keep people's attention and to connect with a generation of kid that is, by all accounts, a lot of them are addicted to their phone at this stage. It's gone, reliance is just skyrocketed on it. I mean, you I would imagine witness that in the classroom as well. And whereas a lot of coaches are, even college coaches are full-time in the soccer side of it. So they're getting their players for like 2 or 3 hours. You're seeing this for the course of a day and seeing how kids kind of manage their phones during school days. And what's your thoughts on the, because at Liverpool, Alex Inglethorpe was on High Performance talking about they take their phones off them and first thing in the morning, give it back to them 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm sure you couldn't do that, but do you think it's going to get to that stage, or do you think it's moved so far across, Rick, that we've now got to adapt the environment to fit the phone in? Or what's your thoughts on it?
I think it may get so bad that we may be able to get all the way back to pulling it everywhere. I mean, based just on what I teach audio, video, and technology, and we use phones. It's not something I want to ban in my class, but I do know that I have to watch, that even if they're using it from the technology side and trying to use it for what we're teaching, it only takes one notification that comes in that completely leads them down a rabbit hole. And next thing you know, they've lost 10, 15 minutes of their life, just sucked in rabbit holes there. And it's something that goes on in the locker room as well. And, fortunately for us this year, we had a group of seniors that this goes back to the time we spent on those breakfasts and lunches, trying to build leaders. But I saw it happening, and it wasn't a rule that I put in place, but they would take one of the empty lockers and they would take all the phones and lock them up in that locker so that there was no distractions on it. Even if it meant on a bus ride, we got an hour and 15-minute bus ride. They'd go get them 20 minutes before we would arrive, and everybody put them in one bag. And, so now it's turn off the music and let's get focused. And that way you're not getting these notifications that are coming in from 5, 6 different apps hitting you with information, and they can start to focus on the game and their roles and responsibilities. But quite honestly, I think that came a lot better from our leaders within our program. If it comes from me, it just looks like an adult trying to take that part of their life away from them. And it's certainly an issue, because they're very comfortable sitting on that. Then, we don't even practice until 6 o'clock. So a lot of the boys will stay here and do a little study hall, or, they've got time. They could go get extra touches on the ball. And a lot of times it's much easier to sit back in that locker and, surf the web or TikTok for 45 minutes and then get out there and get some extra work that, you can go watch a million different videos all over the web about the top pros and the ones that have been most successful and all the extra work they're doing. yet it's just hard to put that phone down and get out there and do it. It's much more comfortable.
I really think we need to talk more about that. As not even as coaches, but almost as a society. I have an 8-year-old and loving life at the minute, and he loves his hours of game time a night, but he doesn't know about that world, and I'm petrified. I'm kind of hoping by the time he gets to 15, 16 that we've put some regulations or management in place, but it's exactly what you said, and this is we're not differentiating between the device and the notification that takes you down that rabbit hole. And for someone, it might just be a loss of focus, but for another person, that could be into a dark place of bullying or something where they're being judged or something like that. And in a sport where football's very, very social, and if you take the social away from that, like I'm sure you witnessed that, Rick, where you roll in, get out of the car, and you walk up and you see 5 to 10 kids sitting on their phones all spread out. I'll never get used to that, because I guess that's where football can bring people together. It's supposed to.
Yeah, you like to think so, but even you can walk into any high school cafeteria in the whole country, and there'll be 8 seats around a circular table, and 7 of them are all staring at a phone. They're not talking to each other anymore. And we have to. I mean, I do have to put rules on that when we go into pregame meals and those kind of things. We don't bring those in there, because during that time we're going to talk, and we've got to get to know each other. And it takes a tremendous amount of work to make that part of the game. Back in the day, that was what you loved. Like, I'm going to see all my mates, and we're going to get together and we're going to play, and and we're going to just do boys stuff and be with the boys. And now you can't. Now that the phone's always bringing other people into that circle.
Yeah, even the pregame stuff's interesting. Rooney was talking about that recently, where now even he's struggling with it, like as a manager, where it was Birmingham or whether it was DC United, whatever situation he was talking about. You've now got, because it's connected to the music, and music's always been, we're not that old, we have been in changing rooms where there's music, but it's never been connected to the phone, right? And now that gets you into all right, phone's away. Coach, this has got the playlist on it. And all of a sudden, but you can't put any away.
I even experienced it last season for the first time when I had my watch on. I got the Apple Watch, and in the middle of the game, my arm's going off, and I catch myself in a game looking to see. And I had to take the thing off, because I've never in 20-something years been distracted in a game situation like that. So I took the watch off and said, we can't have that, but it certainly can, an area where I've never thought it would have touched me, and we had to figure that situation out.
I think you bring a great point. We won't go down this rabbit hole, but maybe it's a follow up where I've seen coaches use. Are they using the phone for? They're using the phone in a practice. Are they using the phone for a timer, a watch? Are they using the phone for,
right,
scrolling?
And even if you pull it out, right, just for the timer, and you see that you got 6 notifications, you're not winning that battle very often.
No, right. Let's get off that topic before it spirals. Yeah, alongside the information, I suppose, then you've also got, in a heavy game schedule, you've also got quite easy for it to move towards results. What was the result? So it almost moves from information overload to emotional overload, where you're trying to get them development focused. And how do you manage that there then, where, especially when you're talking playoffs, or you're talking league play, where the results can matter quite a bit? How do you get them still dialing into that tactical element?
This is it's not a easy step. I mean, it starts again with our middle school and our JV programs. Just the way we structure those, we'll move kids that are in our middle school program that don't need to be playing at that level, bump them up a little bit higher to a JV level. And, and in those 2 levels, we don't care about results nearly as much. We are going to stick to trying to teach the kids how to play. And so most of our boys will come through that, and they understand that piece. And then we talk all the time, even before the season starts, that, we're going to have 18 to 19 or 18 games in a scrimmage on our schedule. And the 12 of those are the ones that matter, that get us into, the state playoffs and give us a chance to win a region championship and then try to go win a state championship. In those other games, we're going to focus 100% on who we are and how we're going about doing it. And then when we go back and we're looking at those games in film, we're not looking at the moments where we scored goals. We're looking at, what did we do in this game that we've been working on in practice? Where were we successful at it? Where did we make the wrong decision? And let them see those moments. And we're trying to focus on those games. Have to be about the process. Those non-region games they're not going to impact anything than somebody's ranking of you. And quite honestly, those don't matter. It's about using those games to focus on who we are, how we're going to play, and the process it takes to get there. And we pull up, videos come a long way, even at our level. Huddle's done a great job of getting us a product here that most high schools can afford. And we get stats, they're not 100% accurate, but it does give a pretty good representation. And, I've been able to sit down with Rade and look at our stats compared to what he might see coming out of Chicago or, the U.S. national team and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. What does it look like compared to what you guys? And, what do you think are the pieces that I need to be showing these guys that have the most impact on, how we are playing and the actual, not the result, but our performance. And, when we can show those things and how we can try to impact those and, even just the momentums of the games and some of those things that are coming through, that helps us stay focused on that piece so that when we get to the games that matter most, we stick to who we are. And, sometimes you got to score ugly goals and make ugly plays at moments. And that is what that is. But we are, I don't want to say we're not focused on results at the varsity level because we certainly are, but we use the games that don't have an impact on, a top opportunity to win the region and get in playoffs to focus on who we are. And even when we, play a region game, we may come back and say, hey, this score line's not what we wanted, but here's some things we did really well where we were playing at a really high level, and this is where we lost some focus that cost us. And, how do we remedy that going forward?
Yeah, the resources as well we've talked about, but I wanted to get it from your angle as a coach, where you're obviously not having a staff where you've got the analyst and the data and the goalkeeper coach, but all the other bells and whistles that you don't have. A high school coach has to wear a lot of hats, and it's quite intense when the games start. A lot of travel, a lot of work. How do you manage your energy throughout that there? And is there any differences between your training demeanor and then your game demeanor?
The season is the season. It's tough. I'm certainly not young as I was, and so you just gotta. A long time ago, I'd stay up 2 in the morning planning out practice and that sort of stuff. Now it's can I get to bed at 10? So, on non-game nights, so I can get up early in the morning and start. And a lot of times I turn myself into a morning person where I'll plan practices and get my thoughts together over a cup of coffee now. And it's tough. I do have a staff. I don't have a gigantic staff, but, this year we were short a JV coach. So I was running JV practice, and then I'd go into varsity practice. But I did have another guy that was helping me at the varsity level. So he would come in and start doing some stuff with the varsity guys till I could transition and, use a cup of coffee between each practice to help me refocus mentally. Physically felt good, but sometimes I need a little extra shot to, look at you, Gary, and call you somebody completely different, even though I know your name, But I think, it's, I love what I do and passionate about it. So it's that time of season where you just know you're going to work at it and you got to grind and, you try to pour everything you can into practices and get them where they're training at the level that it's going to take. So that when we get in the game, that's not a different level, of intensity. And then I've never been a big on the sideline at game day. I've never been a huge, I don't do a whole lot of yelling on the sideline. At that point, it's relying on our leaders and what we do during the weeks of training to come through. And, if we're going to be successful, it's got to be the guys on the field doing it. So tend to try to let them take charge of that piece. And, we're there to support, but, they also understand that, when the game gets tough and they're defending the end further from us, it can't be me organizing or anybody else organizing. It's got to come from within the team. But, yeah, I think that changes, and then I think I've learned to, hand certain pieces off. We do have, some parents that are doing things to take care of our program, off the side. And I've let them have that piece so that I can put more of my energy to the stuff that's on the field. It's a tough thing because you want it done at a certain level, but if you can find those people that can do those things for you, that's been huge for me to, I don't put any. I mean, there was a time 8 years ago I was going to Walmart to buy stuff for pregame sandwiches and trying to slap sandwiches together. Now I don't have to do that piece. It's can I 100% put my efforts into the soccer piece because we've got a great support system of parents and people that are willing to do those kind of things and take that off my plate.
All right, last one for you. You've done a brilliant job of articulating the different types of the player development, the character development, the leadership development. It is a critical age in terms of development at 14 through 18. Where do you think a high school coach, or how do you think a high school coach impacts the most when you're looking at players who leave the program and you almost reverse engineer it and say, I remember focusing on this, or I remember doing that. Does it change from player to player, or do you have core principles that you're saying, all right, from day one, we're going to try and work on this here with every single person?
I think what you have to, you see too many players to do a full, and I don't have time, again, because of all the different hats you have to wear. You can't really go, I'm going to do this with this player. I mean, you know some ones that need certain little things and you can help them, but you have core principles about, the type of young men that you want, what it's going to take to be part of your program, and you want those core principles coming out in the classroom. You want them coming in off the field and then on the field, and you just try to impact. I think the high school playing high school can be such a great experience for the players because, even if they're top players and they're playing on top club teams, they're going to come into this high school experience and they may be asked to play in a different just positionally playing a different role, take on more responsibility. They're going to have greater leadership run. And those things can build so much confidence and belief in who they are, not only as players, but as young men. And, they're at that age where it won't be long before they'll be looked to beyond being just a player. They're going to be dads and be having careers and so I think that's one of the big things that I know that we can instill in them is just that belief in who they are, as young men, that soccer is only one part of their life, but then when they get into the world, they can draw on all the challenges and setbacks and successes they've had within the high school level. But I think that's one of the big things is I know that at the high school level, we can, because there's such a greater variance in the level of players and what's asked of them, that they can be held in a completely different light by their peers, and that gives them all new development opportunities to grow as young men, and even grow as players. You can be a top player, and you got to understand that I can't just try to hit that 40-yard diag to somebody because that guy might not can handle it. I might need to be able to play into somebody's feet, move and get again, and then play that next guy a 20-yard ball. So he's developing and understanding, different ways to solve problems on the field because he's not surrounded by guys that are, maybe his soccer, football and equal, I just think there's big opportunities for them to grow because it's such a weird time for them anyway, as they're unsure about who they are. And then even as they become seniors, they start to question where they're going. They're 18 and about to be thrust into the world, and they're uncertain of that piece. But, I know that they can draw on the time that they've spent within our program to, fall back on and look to those pieces of who they are and, to help guide them through some uncertain times.
Rick, top class. This one flew. I really enjoyed this. Brilliant insight into, lifting the curtain behind high school and what goes on and the tactics that can exist there. I really enjoyed that.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. It's something I've put 20 plus years at the high school level. And, one of the things I always want to do with these guys is, number one, I want them to, have fun when they're part of our program. I want to make sure they're playing the game, and I want to feel like we're preparing them for whatever level they want to play next. If it's go to college or, if it's, get on some special club team or it's Sunday league, whatever it is, we're preparing them to try to play and, passionate about what we do. And I know that it can be done and, just never going to complain about the things that hold us back.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rick. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.